All right, and three, two, one, fade. All right, welcome to
Zencast.
Media. We're three idiots who want to talk about the arts, our individual arts. We each individual occupy spaces of film, media, and gaming, respectively. And we got some hot topics that we want to talk about today. We film every Friday at 7 p.m. Live, and you'll be able to check this out maybe an hour or two after the podcast on our locals page. And you can find those links down below wherever they are. They'll populate after the stream. So, yeah, without further ado, I'll introduce ourselves. So, my name's Irving. I'm a film and media guy. I like directing films, I like producing films, and I like talking about films too. I own a company called Ariella, and it does a lot of things, but I won't bore you with the details, and I'll pass you over to Ben.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm a music person. Generally I do a lot of different things in the world of music. I'm primarily a flute player, involved, off and on in media composition, but hopefully, I'm going to be starting grad school in the fall for more focused on media recording, recording music for media.
Cool. Nathan?
Nathan, I am chiefly a programmer. I've been programming since I was in middle school. Currently, I'm a college freshman. I'm very interested in the video games industry, and that's where I hope to work eventually. I have also picked up 3D modeling, and I've recently started doing compositional stuff for music.
Cool. Yeah, so we started doing this because we thought it'd be fun. So, as you can see, it's not terribly formal, not terribly glitzy, but we're here to have a conversation amongst friends. Nathan is my brother, and I've known Ben since college. We were roommates. And so, we just want to chat about stuff that we like chatting about, and hopefully pick some fights. So, that's why we did this. If you want to interact with us, just hit us up in the chat. I know there's probably like 3 of you guys.
There's one.
But I promise if you speak, we'll listen because there are 3 of you guys and you can join this conversation. So without further ado, we'll start with the music side of things. And Ben's got some interesting things to talk about. So go ahead.
Yeah. So starting off with something somewhat controversial, it's always kind of a challenge to take on the icon in the film music world that is John Williams and Star Wars, which is arguably the pinnacle of his writing. You can differ on that, but I'm not really going to criticize John Williams. And Star Wars is one of the most impactful. Well, overall, all the scores. One of the things that really impacted me as a young musician, got me into playing flute generally, and just kind of interested in musical expression. But there are some things that I think are worth discussing about the score, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about what I think is the best theme with the worst presentation in the Star Wars. Well, I'm going to focus on the original 6 movies. The sequels are their own thing that can be talked about for a very long time. So the theme I want to talk about is a theme known on the official soundtrack as Luke and Leia, and unfortunately, I'd play it, but copyright issues. You don't want to get into that.
The Twitch monster.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there are a lot of big themes that pretty much every person can, think they can probably hum from Star Wars. You got the main theme, Darth Vader, um, or Imperial March, whatever you want to call that. Battle of the Heroes, Duel of Fates, lots of really big numbers. Um, One of the maybe the most famous romantic one, other than Across the Stars, another pretty big one, and then Leia's theme, which is kind of a romantic theme in the first film, because she's sort of a romantic interest, but I think the theme that gets kind of the shortest end of the stick is this theme, Luke and Leia, and part of that is first off, it's what it's used for in the film is for when Luke initially when Luke tells Leia that that they're twins, and then it's used one more time in the film. So it plays about 3 times, like in the theme itself, like kind of on repeat, as an underscore while Luke is telling Leia that they're twins. And then at the end of the film, when they see that the Han and Leia see the Death Star blow up, um, Han says, like, oh, Leia, I know you love Luke, and she says, actually, that's not it. He's actually my brother, and that's the only other time we get the theme in the film. I think it's one time there through the melody, and it's in the end credits too. I guess it does get reused in Episode 9, but who cares about that? So, because Episode 9 has like every theme that he wrote thrown in there somehow. So,
do they re-record those things, or do they just literally rip from the old and paste it on?
So it depends. I think where it is in the in Episode 9 that is re-recorded, but like probably literally the notes, he just took the old sheet music and rescanned it probably and put it on the musician stand.
Right.
Yeah. So the theme itself is a really gorgeous theme, and it's really fascinating because it's, if you look at the melody itself, it's without kind of getting too technical. If you listen to it, the first time you listen to it, you probably won't notice this, but if you actually pay attention to what it is, it's the same contour as Luke's theme, which you probably, most people don't realize that Luke actually has a theme. But originally, in the very first Star Wars film, Luke's, the main theme, Luke gets the opening crawl, is actually designed by Williams to be Luke's theme. So if we take that as Luke's theme, although it's not really, doesn't exactly function as that in the other movies, is because of its popularity. It's like a generic, this is Star Wars and heroic music. So that makes sense, though, that we've got Luke, we get his melody, kind of the contour of his melody, with this really dense harmony that is very different than what we get in the actual, main title theme. And the harmony itself is close, not exact, but and relying on the same sort of modal shift that Leia's theme has. So it's kind of combining Luke and Leia.
What's a modal shift?
So instead of like being diatonic, so it's originally in D flat, instead of just using all the notes that are in D flat, the first chord is D flat, and then the next chord goes to flat 7 with a bunch of other harmonic notes in there. So we're borrowing from like the Mixolydian mode instead of the major mode, in the same key. Yeah, so we're kind of combining Luke Luke's theme itself, like the melodic contour with sort of the modal sorts of shifts that are in Leia's theme, which makes it absolutely really gorgeous theme. And it's very unfortunate that we get it 3 times. You can barely hear it while Luke is telling Leia that he's her sister, and we get like the one time, and again you can barely hear it, where Leia tells Han that she is Luke's sister.
Now, is this track popular, like on the OST though? Like,
I would say so. I mean, it gets so on the OST, it gets a really, really beautiful presentation, like 4.5 minutes long. I think probably Williams' best. We can't call it a love theme, but if it didn't have the title, we would call it a love theme.
It'd be pretty weird if it was a love theme.
Yeah, but
I mean, it really was like that, kind of. Maybe
Yeah,
that kind of pretty weird, though.
it's familial love, I guess. But so it's I think I believe it's the 3rd track on the original official soundtrack, and it just, when you hear like the way that Williams treats it, which that is so transplanted, what like this kind of full presentation he gets, it is also transplanted to the end credits. So you do hear it in the end credits, but who cares? Who listens to all?
Yeah. Wait. Someone in Twitch said stream doesn't have any sound.
No. No. The no sound devil appears.
Oh my goodness.
Let me fade out really quick. Can you respond to the person real quick?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I said I thought it was just me, but I checked on my iPad, signed out, and still no sound.
Well, we went a long time without any sound happening, so
this is so typical. It hurts. But let me fade out real quick. Welcome to our super informal first stream. I'm sorry for our crappy quality, but I don't know. Let me switch back, and Ben, you can decide what you want to do. You can either start over, whatever you want to do.
I mean, is it worth starting over?
It's up to you. We still have it for the podcast.
Give me a abridged version if you want to.
I'll do that. I'll do that for the one person.
Yeah.
So, you good?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. So, what I was saying, kind of brief version, is I was talking a little bit about this theme from episode 6 of Star Wars, Luke and Leia's theme, which is used. It's really, really beautifully developed on the official soundtrack, and then in the end credits. But in the film itself, it's used when Luke tells Leia that they're twins, and then later when Leia tells Han that she's Luke's sister, and we get 4 little repetitions of it between those 2 scenes. A really, really beautiful, harmonically fascinating theme that is really well crafted. It combines the main theme, which was originally Luke's theme, and the music over the title crawl, and kind of the harmonic shifts of Leia's theme. It sounds really lovely, and you basically don't hear it at all in the film, even when it's there.
And it's familially romantic, is what we
Yes.
we nailed down.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Or I don't know how else to put that.
I mean, like, so if it didn't have a name attached to it, and you just heard the presentation on the official soundtrack, you'd think it's a love theme. So, you can make of that what you will.
It's a weird movie, bro. It's a weird movie.
And it got the last third of it really got, from what I understand, really got chopped up in the editing room trying to finish it in time, which is part of what. Why I think it ended up getting such a great theme. It got such a terrible presentation. Is John Williams does this fascinating thing when he writes, which is gets the story first, because he's John Williams, so you can ask for that, and he gets like previews of the script, and he decides what themes he wants to develop. Then he just writes the themes and develops them fully. So like the full presentation that you get on the official soundtrack was written before he saw any of the film. So I have no idea what any of those scenes looked like in the drafts that he was given.
He had been given like a storyboard, or like...
Yeah, I mean, so he's clearly given like some drafts of the script and whatever Lucas felt like giving him.
Right.
And when that's how Williams does all of his scores, which is a lot of good things about it, in that he, instead of just like looking at what he gets on the screen, and that's the first time he sees it, and he just kind of responds like, oh well, if it's only like a 3-second shot, I can only have a 3-second theme kind of thing. He cares about like the emotional development that's like not necessarily presented, and he can fully develop that, and then can figure out how to throw it into the film. So that it's a really good thing for most cases, I would say. I think it's sort of something that's distinctive about his music, and obviously no one else really can do that. You had to be John Williams of his stature to approach a director and say like, hey, I know you're going to use me for this film, so give me stuff in advance so I can write in advance. But the downside of that, I think, is something like with this theme, where clearly I think he got the impression this was going to be probably a more emotionally impactful, more developed kind of revelation. And when he got to see the film, not much there that he could do with it, and probably any of it that was there, like it was probably chopped up too by in the editing room. So I think that's sort of the root of it, and I don't like say, well, in my own say John Williams like that was a bad decision to write that theme beforehand.
Right.
But it's really disappointing to me. What I wish like could be done with the theme is that like we could just forget that it has any associations with Luke and Leia, and if Star Wars goes in the direction of the EU, where Luke eventually marries, that should absolutely be like Luke's love theme. Like just
Yeah.
I just consistently find it so disappointing because it's such a beautiful theme, and it just feels wasted the way it is in the film.
Does John Williams get like a chance to like argue in the editing room, or do you think that they just said you'll see it when you see it?
I don't think he gets much of a voice at that point. I mean, the most famous example is this episode 2, where he wrote tons of music, and for like the all the stuff on Geonosis at the end of the film, and you add up like the 30 minutes of music he wrote, you hear like 2 of it, and the rest of it, it's not like there's not music. It's just the scene got cut so much, and so much just throwing random CGI stuff into it at the last second, that in order to fill the space, they just took unused bits or used bits of music from the Phantom Menace and just patched it together. Like, oh, here's 1 second of a timpani here, and here's 3 seconds of violins, and like he had no say over that. Like he wrote and recorded like half-hour music, 35 minutes of music for all that, and 2 minutes of what he wrote makes it in, and the rest of it, some really skilled music editor did it himself, and without, John Williams had other things to work on too. He's also writing Harry Potter, the Sorcerer, not the Sorcerer's Stone, the second Harry one. What's the second one? Chamber of Secrets.
I don't remember. Yeah. Is it like normal for movies to like have this sort of thing where a lot of the music is just thrown out, or is it specifically like that movie?
I mean, some of it generally does get thrown out, mostly for like sound, balance reasons, but generally probably like I would guess around 5%, maybe 10%. The amount that like in that film, and probably from what I understand about Return of the Jedi, is much higher.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear about like anything about the Star Wars, it's always just like, wow, this thing was just so unorganized. That's always the impression I get from Star Wars movies and their production.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know that George Lucas was the greatest directorial.
Oh, you can't say that. You can't say that. That's illegal in movie world.
Well, he didn't direct like most of them.
He only directed the first episode 4, 1, 2, and 3, right?
Yeah, exactly. He directed 1 through 4. Yeah. And then 5 and 6. And 5 is my favorite. So, yeah.
I think 5 is the pinnacle of the music too.
Yeah.
5 is the one on like the Hoth, the snow planet.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, everyone says that as the identifying image, and I totally agree with that too. It's like you can't get the snow planet out of your mind.
The other two are just Death Star.
Yeah.
Fair. Fair. Yeah. Anything else to say about that?
No, I mean, I don't know. I've just been listening to it a lot recently, and like it keeps striking me as like it's such a good theme. Like it might be the best. I don't know if it's the best theme, but it's definitely one of like the top 3 themes in there, and like nobody knows it because I don't know. It's just disappointing to me.
At least it lives on in the OST.
Yeah.
Like it's not like in some bin somewhere and no one can access. Yeah. I imagine there's like there's probably a good bit of thrown away music from that too that didn't even make it on the OST. Or
I think that you get like the full presentation because so the presentation on the OST is also published in a concert suite. So like that, you probably get what he wrote for that theme, but like the other things on the OST is a big problem. I mean, this is a problem in every OST, every film ever, but especially in Star Wars, they're anything that's like from the film, not like written as like a extended concert version, it just gets chopped up in really weird places. Like if you I hate, one of my least favorite examples is the opening of Revenge of the Sith, which is like the tightest interplay of visuals and music in the saga. And if you listen to what's like in the film versus what was like fully was recorded in the studio versus what makes it onto the official soundtrack, it's just really jarring how bad the official soundtrack is.
Oh man.
There's some awkward cuts. Like they go like they put, instead of being like ABC, it's like ACBAB or something. Like,
yeah. Cool. Well, that's Star Wars, and that's Ben. Cool. You want to go next, Nathan?
Sure. Okay. So, my topic is GTA 5, and that it's essentially a wasted potential of a game. All right. So, the problems that I mainly have with this game are probably something that a lot of people have. I just think it's like pretty egregious what that game has, right? So, it's just like a whole lot of good technology, but like the actual, gameplay, which is the important part, is oftentimes lacking, right? So, for example, it's like that one mission that everyone knows of when you play it, or you forgot because it's so boring, where essentially you get in a tow truck, you go 2 miles per hour across the city, and you go back, right? It's like, okay, I understand GTA has like some of the nicest feeling car physics I've ever played, right? This isn't some like garbage slidey Ubisoft game, right? This is like GTA, right? As that's what's known for partially, right? As the name would say, you would expect it to have good car physics, right? It feels nice, right? But why would you give me the slowest vehicle ever and tell me to go somewhere and come back and be like, oh yeah, that's the experience. That's the experience. Yes, that's like that really sums up like half the problem I have with this game. It's just like you know every single mission. It's an open world game, so as is common, you have to travel to where you need to go. You need to travel to somewhere in order to start your next mission or next level, whatever you call it, and then you do whatever, right? So you sort of have this two-part trip. Well, the first trip, you need to travel from where you are currently to where the mission start is, where you are then briefed on what the mission is, and you travel from the mission briefing to the actual mission, which takes that game time of, I think the game is, I don't remember how many, I looked it up, I don't remember how many hours it is, but it's a good length of a game, and it takes that, and it expands on it, right? But it's like, I don't want to do this. This is not I think it's interesting, right? Because thinking, okay, but isn't this kind of what you would want in a way? A lot of driving in a game that a big point of it is great feeling cars, right? It's called Grand Theft Auto after all, right? But the problem is, I find that the driving is often just unrewarding, right? So you know all game mechanics essentially hinge on this sort of failure or reward kind of thing. You utilize the mechanics to achieve something, and you should get some sort of nice feedback that you like, right? um and in the case of GTA driving, right, your reward is getting to the next mission, right? Which is, I mean, sounds like a problem already. Your reward should not be to play the game, you and your failure is essentially, crashing, right? And the most annoying thing in that game is trying to just get from point A to point B as fast as possible because you don't want to drive anymore. You've been driving for hours already. You want to get there, so you're going fast and you crash, and your body flies out the window 5 miles away from where your car was, or rip your fast car. Now you got to walk back, assuming your car, is still there, it's still intact, right? And assuming you didn't die, where if you died, you get respawned in another hospital, and that's just an L. So yeah, driving, from one place to another is definitely what I find, you know, sort of a weird, bad part of GTA is because it feels nice at first. At first when you're playing the game, it's okay. And then you do it again and again and again, and it's like, okay. If I wanted to drive around, I would just drive around myself. Like I currently want to get to the next mission. If I didn't want to do that and I enjoyed driving, I would just drive myself. It's kind of a weird thing. I feel like I wish they took the world, the city, made it more compact, right? And especially since a lot of the missions, a lot of the city just goes unexplored because nothing there, and there's nothing to do. There's no missions. They just took it and then they made it smaller, right? And then they took out the driving, and all that money and effort and time wasted on expanding this beautiful city. If they can instead work on a smaller section or something, and then also work on more furthering the main gameplay. You know, so yeah, and it's like the it also has like a lot of I think a lot of what's wrong with the game is them trying to inflate the playtime, right? So you have the driving, which increases playtime, and on the other side, you also have these side missions, right? Now the side missions are pretty fun for some of them, and then there are some where there's like you just ride a bike. It's like, okay, I mean, I don't really. I mean, no. I almost finished the game, and then there was one side mission left. I'm like, I'm not doing this because I don't want my like experience as the last thing I remember about this game. Last thing I did to be like riding a bike from like one place to another. That's not what I want to be doing. You know. Um. So and like another problem, with the side missions is that there a lot of them are pretty repetitious. So there's like the one like line of side missions that are essentially you go on a shooting frenzy, you go and like you shoot a bunch of people because like whatever, right? Cool, right? Your other one are these races. No, the races are really fun actually. They're probably one of the better parts of the game in my opinion, right? Because it fully exercises that technology I was talking about before of the really nice car physics, right? The problem is that these races, there are only 5 of them in the entire game. You can only do it 5 times in a game called Grand Theft Auto for some reason, right? And as well, like you are given, the character of Franklin. The character of Franklin is the one who does these wow, racing missions, right? Franklin, every character has a unique ability in GTA. Franklin's ability is that he's essentially good with cars, right? So you can press whatever the ability button is, and you go into this like slow motion state where you have enhanced ability to turn the car. Your car magically gains traction, and I think you can in some cases use it to gain speed, right? So essentially, this sort of leads into the next issue of the fact that GTA 5 has basically no challenge because you've given me this OP character to do a race in, and it's you can be behind by a lap and then you'll come back because you have like this magical turning power that you can take like 90-degree turns on a dime by pressing the ability button. you know it's it's a bit ridiculous, and the worst part is that all 5 are Franklin's races, so you can't even it doesn't feel like you're actually it doesn't feel like a competition in any actual meaningful way. It doesn't feel like a game. Would you say?
Feels like a cheat button.
Yeah, essentially it's a cheat button, right? You know, and this is a problem throughout the game, right? So in many parts of the game, once again, this is another nice car moment that I think is one of the most fun parts, is where you have to chase down another car, right? From you don't like the person in it or whatever it is, whatever the storyline is saying, right? You chase this person in a car, right? The problem is this game does something that a lot of games call, which is called rubber banding, right? Which essentially is when you if the player is close to achieving their goal, the game will make it harder to achieve their goal. If the player is farther from achieving their goal, it'll try to push them towards make it a bit easier. And here's how it works in GTA. If you're chasing a car as part of a mission, if you're very close to catching up to it, the car will gain speed, beyond what it's normally able to do in order to, make sure you don't catch up. The same happens if you slow down. The car will randomly just start going at a crawling pace because it's like, oh yeah, I got to wait up for that guy, right? He's chasing me. It's very strange. And this sort of, I don't think I've ever failed one of those chasing missions because the game essentially doesn't let you, and it doesn't feel like a game anymore. It's like if I wanted to, it just you just it's like I'm not getting rewarded for doing good, anymore. Driving faster doesn't actually do anything anymore. I can't catch up to that car any sooner than the game wants me to catch up to that car. I think that's where the game fails, and pretty massively. My next complaint with the game is probably something that's literally just me, and that's that. All right, GTA Online is weird, right? And I think to many people who play GTA Online, they're probably like, I don't really care. This is fine, right? I played GTA Online once. I got into the game, I saw a flying car, I was done. That's pretty much it, right? That's definitely just like I feel like a boomer, right? It's like like I just don't get it. I was in the game. I was literally just I remember I was like on a mountain or something, right? I got sniped. I got one shot. I'm like, okay, that was a riveting experience, you know. And then I spawned, right? I respawned. No, I think I respawned. I got in a car, drove somewhere. I lost my car somehow. I called a taxi. The taxi managed to get itself in a ditch, and I had to walk back to like wherever. Okay, I feel like it's not really the game's fault and my fault. Maybe GTA Online is not as bad as I took it to be. But yeah, those are pretty much my main complaints with the game.
So it sounds like there's a really weird mix of hyper realism and absolute irrealism. Well,
It's definitely I feel like it's trying to be sort of comical in a way,
It is comical in a way.
Yeah.
But like, well, so you said it has like a lot of potential. Like what?
Yeah,
What?
so I think it feels like a Ubisoft game in a way because it's like the game is almost good, it's like it's almost there. It's almost there, The technology is there, like the car physics is good. The ragdolling is very like satisfying to look at. It's not as simple as like okay, the body goes limp. It's like it feels like it's an actual human falling down. The inverse kinematics, which is the way they do their animations of running upstairs, is essentially a more realistic way of doing things. It looks really nice. The game was created like um, it's been 7 years now or something like that. 7 years ago or something like that. This game holds up really well. For how old it is. It's doing a lot of things that games still don't do. Um, it looks great. It has mod support, which is nice. To and I'm not going to pretend that I'm not saying it's a bad game necessarily. I think it's just that it could have been much better. I have over 100 hours in the game. It can't be a bad game at that point. But most of the time was playing a mod, right? Not the actual game, which is kind of weird. I finished the game once, and I sort of didn't have any, I didn't have any will to go back and do it again or something. I just was like, all right, time to play mods because the mods allow you to use this technology for things that the original creators did not put into the game for whatever reason. Yeah, and I think there was one point that I was missing. Um, oh yeah, yeah. One thing I forgot to say is adding on to this, car thing, right? About how the car driving is really satisfying, but they don't let you utilize it correctly. In my entire playthrough, I was only able to buy one car, right? Because completing certain missions, yields you a certain amount of money, and you can spend that money on whatever car you want, right? In theory, you want to buy a fast car, right? Except they're like $1 trillion, and you can't buy it until literally the last mission, right? The last mission where they give you all the money and you have nothing else to do in the game except drive around, pissing off the cops. Like, you know, it's sort of weird. I think I literally bought one car during the game because that's all I could afford as far as fast cars go. You could probably buy a billion bikes if you wanted to, but no one wants to do that. And once if I recall correctly, once the car explodes, I don't think you have it anymore. Which means that yeah, you always have your personal car, which is essentially there are 3 personal cars for each character, which respawns if it blows up. Essentially, um, it's just like their own car that you can upgrade and stuff like that, and they work well enough. Except like when you don't want it at some point, it's like okay, I've been driving around the same car. This game called Grand Theft Auto has nice cars. I want a new car, and the game's like, no, we can't do that to you. Can't give you a new car. Can't let you have fun.
So would you classify GTA more as like a car simulator than a game? Then would you go so
car? No, no. I definitely would consider it more of a proper game. I think it's interesting because I feel like if it was a full on car simulator, I feel like I'd have more fun. If they took those 5 races, right? They gave you someone else except Franklin, and they just made it more than 5 races, right? Like unlimited races. I feel like I'd actually have like a stupid amount of fun in that game, because it just feels nice to drive around and stuff like that. And I definitely spent a lot of time actually just driving around myself. But it's like when I choose to drive around, that's nice. But I don't like it when I just want to get to the next mission. I'm done driving around, and the game's like, no, you got to drive some more.
Yeah, yeah. Are they making another GTA?
Yeah, yeah. There's some news about GTA 6. I can't quite remember what it was, but yeah, there's definitely a upcoming GTA 6 coming out. Yeah, I feel like I want to hope they don't go for the open world trap of okay, let's spend $1 trillion on art assets, making big worlds, spend $2 on everything else, which I feel like is part of the problem with this. But I think that's literally just what it's going to be like because open world games sell. Like I don't mean to beat on Ubisoft too much, but I mean it really is trash. Like I'm not like Okay. It's not pure trash. I actually do have a lot of hours on Ghost Recon. Right. These games are still fun. It's just like I feel like they could be so much more. It's just like big budget on big big world, but then like when it comes to diversifying the content within the world, it always falls short. And I feel like GTA 6 is probably gonna fall for the same trap because that's what sells. If Ubisoft can make sorry Ubisoft, but if Ubisoft can make essentially the same game just with new bigger map every single time and new bigger graphics every single time, right? Like, and it still sells. They're still out here doing their thing, right? Like, I think they're fine. I think they're gonna do that, go for that because that's what sells. It's like Ghost Recon is big world stealth shooter with drones, and then you have like you have Watch Dogs, which is big world stealth shooter with hacking. It's like I'm playing when I played Watch Dogs and Ghost Recon, I'm like, okay, I'm playing the same game. I'm playing the same game right now. With enough variation to call it a different game. Has a different story, I guess, even though I don't know if the story of Ghost Recon is particularly compelling anyway, so I guess that's good. But yeah.
Well, trashing on Ubisoft.
Yeah, no, I'm half joking. Like Ubisoft is actually, I think they're one of the few companies who still like are out here making nice new technologies because if you ever play like Ghost Recon, the game's beautiful. The animations are flawless. Like it's such like a technological masterpiece. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like it falls short in other regards.
Yeah, it's money without heart.
Do you have any idea who wrote the music for it? And just out of curiosity, you probably not, but
No, I have no clue, honestly. I don't follow video game soundtracks, although I do know a decent amount about movie soundtracks.
Yeah. Do you remember the music is probably more important because
Absolutely
if it wasn't
not. No, I don't actually. I actually couldn't even like. I don't know what instruments tended to be used, or I actually don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's my turn then. So speaking of big budget things with no heart and soul, or any concept of being true to anything they say, we'll probably learn week over week that I love bashing Disney at any given point. But yeah, Captain Marvel is. I'll leave my thoughts about the movie itself aside for this time, and maybe I'll talk about it some other time. But the marketing scheme around the movie is it's horrendous. It actually affects me on a personal level. I remember coming out of Avengers Endgame, and by the way, I'm not a uh, Marvel fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I remember coming out of Avengers Endgame and like just the scene that kept replaying over and over was spoiler alert. Captain Marvel getting punted literally off screen, like, and it was almost as if like they threw up a big middle finger at anyone who cared about that character at all. She was basically not in the movie. She was in like the first um, she was in the first like I don't know 20 minutes of the movie or something like that, and it's a long movie, so that first 20 minutes like you forget about it till she reappears at the end there, and she literally gets punted off the screen. And so that bothered me just because I had watched Captain Marvel. Um, Spoiler alert again, I didn't like Captain Marvel. But at the very least, I thought from the previous Avengers movie that she was going to be the savior of the universe. So, and that's how they marketed it. And if you know how Disney does their marketing, what they do for these huge movies that have like social justice implications, they'll do it on a more like grassroots kind of level. Where they'll not grassroots, that's not the right word, but it'll be more like guerrilla marketing, where they'll have their actors and actresses who are prominent roles get on every talk show and YouTube channel, like the huge YouTube channels. They'll interview with those people and they'll come to the people, and that's how they do it. And it's actually a great marketing strategy and one that they execute very well. But it's one of those cases where it's like false advertising, and not in a false advertising kind of way that's clever or interesting. You might argue that was it episode 7's false advertising is interesting because at least, even if you didn't like the movie, at least added to the conversation around the movie. Whereas like this kind of false advertising is literally taking advantage of your audience. And so what they did was throughout this entire marketing campaign, they had Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, go around everywhere, every talk show host, and talk about how this was the Marvel feminist movie. And that was the angle. The Marvel feminist movie is Captain Marvel. And so, you know, you expect her to have like a role in the I don't know, end game of the the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know that if you have such an important movie and you're saying that the linkage between the previous Avengers movie and the next Avengers movie is Captain Marvel, you'd expect that she would be prominent in that end movie. But she literally says at the beginning, like they're all sitting around and all the heroes are sitting around, they're saying, oh, like Thanos is threatening the universe, who's gonna like do what? And basically someone says, who's gonna take care of the rest of the universe? That might have been Captain Marvel herself. And the idea was that Captain Marvel was gonna leave and take care of the rest of the universe while all the heroes that we've known and cared about for so long, which is the only reason why they took the prominent role, because they knew that those are the characters that sell ultimately, that those characters would stay behind, which Thanos is literally threatening the entire universe, and she's the most like powerful character in the universe as well. At least I'm not a big Marvel person, but everyone I know who's a comic fan tells me that Captain Marvel is at least in the running for the literally most powerful character in the Marvel universe. So what? So it's like, okay, so the logic is the rest of the universe has to be taken care of, but you leave behind everyone else who can't like defend the universe from literally the greatest threat in the universe. And I was like, okay, weird direction, but I'm sure she's going to come in halfway through the movie. No, she comes in at the end of the movie, and like I said, she gets punted off screen. Now, this gets a lot worse than just that, because that alone would have already made me irritated, and maybe I would have forgotten it over time. But even worse is understanding the production schedule for when these movies were made. And then you really see that the marketing for Captain Marvel and Endgame was truly an insidious Disney move. And the reason this caught my attention was because Brie Larson did an interview, a late night talk show interview. It wasn't Kimmel, it was, darn it, I'm forgetting. But she did like a late night talk show where she talks about the fact that she didn't do Captain Marvel first, but that she filmed Endgame first because they made that movie first. Now, I wasn't familiar with the production schedule at all when I watched Endgame. I didn't know what movie was made. And so I'm listening to her describe the experience as like a funny thing, not really knowing what her character's backstory is, and then being in Endgame and then filming Captain Marvel as like an, oh, haha, this is how Hollywood does what it does. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. So you're telling me Disney did not even have the story written for Captain Marvel when they filmed the punting off the screen portion of Avengers, which so so they already knew that they punted her off the screen. Then they made Captain Marvel, knowing that they already punted her off the screen. Made that whole movie and marketed it as like this big feminist thing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, knowing that she's gonna get punted off the screen. And I just think that's terrible. Because literally what you did was you said, all you people who have this strong feeling about this thing, I'm manipulating you, knowing that we're not going to give you what you think that you're going to get out of it. And we're literally going to disrespect your attention and character so much that she's going to literally show up and disappear within literally 5 minutes of the movie. And I don't know. And Brie Larson knew it too. That's the worst part. And she did the most marketing for the movie. And she couched it in this sort of feminist language. And she said, this movie is for that reason. She didn't even know the script, though. And I just think that is not, I don't know, that bothers me. I don't know what you guys think, but.
I mean,
It's pretty whack.
I say in her defense, she's probably doing what she was contractually obligated to do. So
yeah,
I'm like, I'll give her a pass, but Disney. I mean, Disney is Disney.
Yeah. I don't know if I can give her a pass. I'm sure she can't say anything negative about the MCU, but I don't know. There's just something in me. If I were in that position, I would at least look uncomfortable while lying.
Yeah, I guess kind of like Mark Hamill before.
Yeah, I was about to say, Mark Hamill.
You can look at those videos of 30 minutes of compilation of Mark Hamill subtly showing that he didn't like The Last Jedi before The Last Jedi.
Yeah, if I were Brie Larson, I'd probably be more like Mark Hamill before going into things than like she was.
Definitely not to be head over heels like, wow, this is one of the greatest masterpieces that man has created.
So I'll revise it and give her a half pass.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't think I'll ever forget that Disney did that because it's just so gross to me.
Is Captain Marvel the only Marvel mainline Marvel film that has a female composer? Any of them other ones? I don't
female
think
composer.
Yeah, composer.
Lead? Oh,
I think that's the only one that has a female composer.
I don't know myself.
Did you listen to the music for it? Or?
No. Well, I haven't seen the film, but
the Marvel movies also don't. The only soundtracks, the only things I remember from Marvel soundtracks, and I know there are going to be a lot of people who disagree because some people actually really do love the soundtrack, and I really understand personally, but is the main theme because it's kind of designed to be an earworm, and it doesn't even feel that gratifying. It just feels like an earworm. And selections from Black Panther because at least that one had a style that was slightly different.
Oh yeah, I actually in my intro to music for the world class we talked about Black Panther's score. So the composer traveled to Africa to figure out what instruments they were using and certain prominent instruments were included.
Yeah, with Black Panther, it felt like there were sections that were memorable, and there were sections that just felt like every other. It wasn't like the whole thing had like a stylistic layer over it. It was kind of like the bed of a lot of the typical emotional scenes was like typical Marvel music, and then but the big punchy scenes were the ones where they were bringing in a different style to it.
And what I do know is that T'Challa's theme and what's the antagonist's name? Killmonger. His theme are both inspired by certain African musics. Yeah, I think T'Challa has sort of they added some Western horns because to make it seem more royal, essentially.
Interesting. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So that wraps up our hot topics for the week.
Yo,
That was
that's
fun.
crazy.
Like, huh?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Do we still have anyone on Twitch, or are we?
We have a whole 3 people, including me. Yay!
Hey, yo.
Hey, but we didn't get that
Huh?
VOD though.
What?
Get that VOD though.
Yeah. Well, so I guess we'll just wrap it up with the news for the week. We each kind of picked out an article that was interesting. And yeah, Ben, if you want to start, you can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I got whatever the guy's name. Probably not gonna butcher this. So uh, news that I found interesting in the musical world this week is that Lou Athens, probably mispronouncing that, but the inventor of the cassette tape just died at the age of 94, I think. Um, and that's clearly someone who really helped shift the way that music is accessed by people, which in turn changes how it's produced, and it literally changes how it's produced because people able to like mix their own things, so, create mixtapes and mash things up together. So obviously, kind of an unsung but pivotal figure in the shift in how music is consumed and produced.
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, well, it's not cool that he died, but like the legacy he had is pretty cool. Yeah. Nathan?
So my news topic is that Microsoft has finally completed their acquisition of ZeniMax Media, which is the company that owns the video game development studio Bethesda, which is one of the few big video game developing studios that are like essentially universally liked for most of their games. They're most well known for like their Doom and Fallout series. And this brings a lot of questions as to what does that mean for them? Like so, one might think that Microsoft owning Xbox would take a lot of their games and make them exclusives and stuff like that. I think that's not known yet which titles will be exclusive, but I do know that Bethesda does have some deals with Sony for PlayStation on their own exclusives, and Microsoft says they'll honor those exclusives, and they'll still be on the PlayStation. This is probably a pretty big thing for Microsoft because PlayStation, seemed pretty dominant this generation of consoles because they just outmatched them in exclusives, and in terms of hardware, it wasn't that big of a difference, except the PlayStation controllers, which are just better essentially. So PS5 has like big exclusives like it has Demon Souls, Gran Turismo. I think the new Horizon game is going to be on PlayStation. Spider-Man, of course. And Xbox has like Halo. That's all. Halo and I think they have Gears of War as well. I think that's an exclusive to Xbox, although I could be wrong. And yeah, so it's possible that one big play, like the one thing that makes Xbox stand out is that they have the Xbox Game Pass, where it's like Netflix for games, right? You pay some amount of money, you get like all these games for free, not free, but you know what I mean. And they could add like all these Bethesda games like Doom to the Xbox Game Pass and make it a lot more enticing. So yeah, I guess we have to watch out for that.
Cool. Yeah. So in film and media, everyone loves to keep tally of the highest grossing films of all time. And of course, Avengers Endgame was on top. I don't know if that's actually inflation adjusted. It might not be the case that it is on top inflation adjusted, but it's on top at least nominally. And the interesting thing is that the previous movie that was on top was Avatar, the Blue People Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar. Um, And of course, he's coming out with a 2, 3, and I think 4 that he filmed all at once because after he filmed Avatar, he became like obsessed with the universe that he created and said, I'm just going to do Avatar movies, I guess, for the rest of his career. I don't know. But yeah, so Avatar is actually coming back and may have already beaten Endgame again for highest grossing film because they reopened again or reshowed the movie again in China, and it did not air originally in China. So that's very interesting because that's a lot of money that Endgame made, and I'm kind of surprised that Avatar. It's not like Avatar has like the biggest viewing in China to begin with. It's just that they weren't actually that far from Endgame, which I thought was very, very fascinating. And I'm sure James Cameron will continue to beat records because every single time he makes a movie, it's the highest grossing film ever. We did it with Titanic, literally everything. So yeah, that's my news for the week.
Two things before we end. One, the highest grossing film, inflation adjusted, is Gone with the Wind.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought too, and I looked it up to make sure. And yeah, and speaking of Avatar, but not the blue people, did you know that Avatar is in the cartoon from Nickelodeon? It's potentially coming back with a new series.
Oh, yeah. The new like
Nickelodeon created Avatar Studios.
Yeah,
to in theory make more Avatar stuff.
They need an expanded universe, just like all of the that Avatar cinematic universe.
Yeah, they saw that. They're like, it's free. It's free real estate.
Well, how else do you make money these days other than taking something popular and making it into its own endless universe?
Ubisoft has been doing that with their own games for years.
Exactly.
I'm so tired of it. I mean, I just watched The Departed for the first time last weekend, and I was like literally floored. It was one of the, I wasn't expecting it to. I'm so close to saying that Martin Scorsese is actually the GOAT. I'm this close to being that definitive about it, but man, I watched The Departed, and I was just like, why do we watch like these cinematic universes, like these one-off great contained pieces can be so compelling. And it's not like everyone who's watched The Departed has been like, oh, this sucks. No one says that. So yeah, state of the world.
Who's the director of Citizen Kane?
Oh, yikes. That's embarrassing. Let me see.
I saw that.
It's Coppola. Let me just double check. No, I was wrong. Embarrassment. It's Orson Welles.
Oh, okay. See, I should know that. Yeah, I saw that somewhat recently, and like, I understand why some people, put that up in there, like, it's one of the best films ever. I mean, it's not like incredible. A lot of the other films that I would like put up on my list tend to be kind of artistic, or it's not artistic, but it's so well done in every aspect for its time. It really holds up.
And it's you don't even have to it doesn't have to be an artsy movie. Like, I love all kinds of movies. Every time I like trash on Marvel movies, people think I'm like some like boring person who only wants to watch like super introspective, like slow burn films. And it's like, no, I actually really love like a good blockbuster. I enjoy blockbusters a lot. I think they're really fun. I want to make some, eventually if I ever get there. But the blockbusters we have these days, I find immensely boring. I don't know.
Real quick, someone in the chat said, "I hope they don't make it worse than the original." But then again, that's too much to ask. I believe they're referring to Avatar.
Oh, it's guaranteed it's good because the original creators are not going to be writers.
No. I'm reading. Avatar Studios will create original content spanning animated series and movies. According to a press release, Avatar and core original creators Michael blah 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 and Brian blah blah are joining Nickelodeon as co-chief creative officers of Avatar Studios.
Huh.
See, but that they're gonna run into the problem. I think we already have of like the George Lucas problem, where they didn't write. They weren't the writers of the episodes of Avatar. Maybe each wrote maybe like a handful. Mostly they're written by like a lot of the first season was written by Dave Filoni, equal. He's a Star Wars guy, like a Mandalorian and Clone Wars. Then for Korra, they took complete control, and instead of just like overall direction, they wrote it as well. And well, I mean, you can think what you want about Korra, but there's no denying that it was less successful when the original creators had like complete control over it.
Yeah.
The whole George Lucas directing his own films problem.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Oh, I thought they had vowed that they were never going to work with Nickelodeon again.
Oh yeah, those final episodes of Korra. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anyone hasn't seen it. But, they essentially just like, I'll just say in the vague way, like destroyed the thing, right? I was talking about like like it's very interesting. You don't have that anymore, which is always a big part of the Avatar series.
Yeah, I thought that was their middle finger to Nickelodeon, that they were saying, oh, this thing that you want to keep franchising out, we're going to destroy it, essentially, like figured in the show. I don't want to say here, but I don't know how they're going to fix it. Maybe is it going to be a prequel? Maybe like prequels.
From what I've heard, they're planning on exploring multiple time periods. So
interesting.
Huh. Well, good luck.
Scared.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you guys for joining us, the ones in the chat. You guys are the real ones. This is our first episode ever.
It's dank. Don't worry, it won't be dank next time, probably. We had technical difficulties.
Yeah. We literally said last week we want to do a podcast for next week, and we said we don't see anyone doing like cross media kind of content where it's like film, gaming, music, and we want to bring people on too who are in other art fields or in our art fields too to add to the conversation, our friends, whoever. But like the biggest thing you can do for us, since this is our first episode, is to go to or to follow us anywhere, and you can find the links to all of our stuff at Ariella. It's AURIELA.
Type it in chat.
.co. Yeah, Nathan will type it in chat. /mixedmedia, and there you'll find links to wherever you want to follow us. I'd be super grateful. We have like 4 followers on Instagram, so we're like in that phase. And if you want to join our Discord too, that's a little bit more poppin'. We got like maybe 7 people in Discord or something.
7 people.
So if you want to talk art all the time, like we're always around. And we'll be back again next Friday at 7 p.m. This video and the podcast version of this will also be available on YouTube. And on all podcasting platforms. So iTunes, Stitcher, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Are you
putting these shorts on the same channel or a separate channel?
What?
You're putting the shorts on the same channel or a second channel?
I thought same channel, since we don't have any other content during the week.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so during the week we'll be releasing bits of this podcast too. But yeah, subscribe to us. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, anything else you guys want to say? Any handles you want to promote?
Oh, yeah. Well, they already know. Never mind. They already know my art Instagram. It's chill. Also, we have 12 people in Discord for, that's like double what we believed. It's pretty epic.
Just a plug to go like legally listen to Luke and Leia from the official soundtrack to Return of a Jedi. It's available on YouTube Music or Spotify or whatever, just any legal platform, so like you get a sense of what I'm talking about.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, then, without further ado, I'm gonna fade us out, and hopefully we'll come back a lot more beautiful looking and cooler and technologically advanced and more coherent and everything better next week. But thanks for joining us this week. Ciao.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.